morning, friends, and welcome back. I am Patty Elhoff, the author of Upcycle with Decoupage, and today we're going to do a project that doesn't have anything to do with decoupage, but I'm going to show you how to make these just stunning ornaments. You're going to make them for yourself. I don't mean to pat myself on the back, because the work all gets done by Borax and your creativity and a little bit of Rit dye, some pipe cleaners, and of course some glitter. Look at the bling on that pretty little wreath. Imagine these on your Christmas tree. You can also hang them up in a very sunny location so that during the day the sun hits these and they sparkle all throughout the day. I have another video, and I'll put the link below, for how to do this on glass bottles. Please do a Google search for where to get borax in your country, or how you can use a product similar to borax if it's not in your country. So here's the first thing that I did. Some of you may already know how to make ornaments out of pipe cleaners. If you don't, you can go over to Pinterest and just put in the search pipe cleaner ornaments or pipe cleaner Christmas ornaments, holiday ornaments. I'm trying to make the Bethlehem star here, and I did kind of a generic version. I just drew it first because for me it made it a lot easier. And you can go over to my website, the link will be below, and that will tell you, you'll see all of the different pipe cleaners, all of the products that you need over there. So anyway, I drew this Star of Bethlehem, which is what led the wise men to Bethlehem, where the baby Jesus was born. And I mention that in case you weren't aware and you didn't realize this is a religious symbol. And for me, that's the reason for the holiday. Actually, in history, that's the reason for the holiday. And I used this drawing just as my inspiration. And what I did was I used these pipe cleaners. I lined these up. And you can see some of these are longer and some of these are shorter. So I cut these in half and wanted to make sure that I had quite a few different sizes. Now I made a cross here in the center, and all I did was I looped the pipe cleaner around the other pipe cleaner. And what I'm going to do is just continue to do this with shorter and longer pieces. And you'll notice that I did not loop the pipe cleaners around every single time. I waited till I had several pieces, and then I just took one of the pipe cleaners on top, I twisted it in the back, and you can always separate these so that they go into the shape that you want. And again, I made sure that everything was tight and firmly in place. And the wire in here helps you to keep everything nice and secure. I want you to keep one thing in mind as you're making all of these ornaments. You want to make sure they fit inside of the glass receptacle that you'll be using with your Rit dye and borax. So if it's too large, you're not going to be able to get it inside of here. You won't be able to submerge it. You don't want any of the pipe cleaner to touch the base down there on the bottom or the sides. So you want to make sure that you're making your ornaments small enough that they can be submerged and they can hang freely in that solution. On some of your ornaments, you can just take scissors and cut the ends so that it's the right size to fit in the glass containers that you have. I have never used metal or plastic, so I don't know if these will work in there. Now I want to show you how to make a snowflake. This may look a little complicated, but it's really not. You start out the same way. You make the cross there. Now I did cut this side one. Now when you make the cross, cut out 3 smaller pieces for the top. But do you see what I'm doing up at the top here? I am turning this wire into a little ball. It almost looks like a pinwheel. So I'm just spinning it once or twice, and then I'm going to wrap this small piece around, and it's going to look a little like arms and a head right there. And then you can do this 2 or 3 more times underneath that same spot. So I'm going to do this so it looks like I've got hands and legs here. I'm going with a little bit longer of a piece of the pipe cleaner. Wrap it nice and tightly, push those what look like legs up. Do this same thing on the other 3 ends of the pipe cleaner. When I was done with that, I put a pipe cleaner in the center on a caddy corner. I cut it, I made a loop, and then I pinched the loop a little bit and then did the same thing on the other side. I left this side a little bit longer so that I was able to wrap the end around the center to keep both of those loops in place. And I did the same thing caddy corner on the other side. That our snowflake now looks like this. And I tied a piece of fishing wire because it's very strong. This is very old fishing wire to the back of this. And then I used a bamboo skewer. You can also use a pen, a pencil, a marker, and make sure it's tied or taped securely around that and it fits into your bowl. And I'll show you how to make some easy ornaments in a moment. Let's get to the dyeing and crystallizing of this. Put some very hot tap water into your bowls first and let it warm the bowl up so that the boiling water that you put in this will not crack it. Now you can mix the borax right into the receptacle here, this glass jar, after you've boiled the water, or you can boil it in a pan and add the borax. It's much easier when you work with smaller amounts. So it says 9 tablespoons for every 3 cups. This was a little larger than 3 cups, so I ended up going with 12 tablespoons of the borax. And you want to put it into your receptacle and just keep spinning it. Now that is boiling water. It was boiling. It just came off the stove, so it's very hot. Then you want to keep stirring that borax. Don't forget this is boiling hot water in here. Whoops, sorry about that camera slip. And just keep stirring it. And don't worry if the borax does not completely dissolve. This water will not get clear. But stir it for at least a good 2 minutes. Then you want to take your RIT dye. And I don't like food coloring for these at all because the colors just don't come out as vivid. 2 things you want to be careful of. Make sure you're wearing gloves. I got dye all over my fingers. This is a messy project, so protect your work environment. You want to stir that in. You also want to be a little cautious with the dye that you don't overdo it because I got an almost black color when I used a dark green and it wasn't very pretty. So just be careful and err on the side of going a little on the lighter side with the dyes. Once you've stirred this all up, place your ornament inside of here and you want to make sure it's submerged and also not touching the sides or the bottom of the container. I had to fool around with this a little bit to make sure that it was completely submerged. But then you want to leave this submerged for 5 hours. You can put something over it or you can leave it like this. If you have pets or children, you want to put this out of reach, cover it, and make sure that it's away. The borax is a cleaning product, so you really don't want it around the animals or children. We don't have children, so I'm always concerned about the pets. And just keep it aside. If you leave it for the overnight, I want to show you something that happened that was not a good result. I left this particular one in here for 12 hours. And first of all, it got a little bit stuck because it crystallized so much that it weighed it down a little bit. You can see I'm having a little tug of war here with this. And my pretty delicate snowflake just got so chunky that I lost the detail to it. And so here's how this one looked. We're going to put that one aside and just probably get rid of it. And by the way, you are able to pour this water back into a container, reheat it, boil it again, stir it all up, and start over. This one I only left in for 5 hours. I should be wearing gloves. Do as I say, not as I do. My fingernails are a mess now. And I pulled this one out, and this looked much, much prettier. You can see I added glitter up on the bow portion of this, but I wanted you to see the difference between leaving your ornaments in for 5 hours and 12 hours. What is that? Now, the crystals are very pretty, but this is so bulky and heavy and big, I cannot hang it anywhere. And it almost looks like some kid's superhero. I'm going to take this part off and put it on the top. Maybe it'll look like a little head, and this is a crystal muscle man or something. I am also not wild about that color. But let me show you how to make a couple of these other ornaments. This is a butterfly. And it's very simple. I took the pipe cleaner, twisted it, I put it into a circle, twisted it at the end, then I pinched it in the center here. I took another pipe cleaner, and this one I cut so that it wasn't quite as long. And I'm using a thicker chenille pipe cleaner for the base there, and a thinner one here for the antenna. And I looped it around again, and then up at the top I'm just spinning these for the antenna. Then I took the wings, and I pressed them inward, and I shaped them by, see, I'm making points at the base here, and then just use your fingers to kind of shape them up a little bit to turn them into the butterfly wings. And that's how you make a butterfly. You can also take the end part of a kitchen utensil, just take a pipe cleaner and wrap it around this in order to make a bunch of little Christmas trees. And the way that I did this was I wanted the top obviously to be smaller, so I kept wrapping it smaller, and then I found it was a lot easier if I just took the end of one of my paintbrushes and wrapped the top half around that so that it was nice and small and thin at the top. You had to play around with it a little bit, and then wider on the bottom like a Christmas tree. You could make several of those. Make sure they stand upright the way you want them to before you put them in the solution, and you can have a whole little village of Christmas trees. For this ribbon, it was very much the same thing as the butterfly. I took 2 pieces of the chenille covered wire cleaner, pipe cleaners, and made a circle, made sure that I pinched the edges here and secured this together, pinched it in the center, and then took another piece of the same chenille pipe cleaner, wrapped it around, and then I turned these sides into something that looked more like a bow. Just played around with it a little until I got it to look the shape that I wanted. And for the hanging ribbon on the bottom, again, I went back to my paintbrush, or you could use a pen, anything that you have on hand that's small and thin, and I wrapped the wire around that, pulled the paintbrush out, and there you have the loops for the bottom of your ribbon. And I made a small little Christmas wreath with the bow up at the top. And what I did for this was I took a marker and one of the thicker pieces of chenille and wrapped it around the marker, pulled it off the marker, and I did this with 2 full pieces because we're going to put these together, and just did the same thing. Wrapped it around tightly, pulled it off, and then I connected. First I shaped this into a semicircle, both sides, and then I just connected them at the end. So I tied it here, it's still going to be small, and I tied it at the other end so that it just looks like a nice small wreath that fits in the palm of your hand, also inside of the receptacle that you'll be using. Then I took a thinner pipe cleaner and wrapped it around one of those same places where I connected the other 2 pipe cleaners, and I just made 2 loops up at the top, wrapped the excess pipe cleaner around, shaped those up a little bit, and also made little curly cues with those ribbons hanging down. And I'm sorry I didn't get to show you this one. I was trying to make a Christmas tree. It looks a little bit more like either a menorah. It could be a menorah. You could make it into one if you wanted, or you could put it on its side. It kind of looks like a fish skeleton. It didn't quite come out the way I wanted, but the color is very pretty. I just took 1 pipe cleaner in the center, several along the side, and looped them all the way up, and then just took scissors and cut them on an angle. And I had a much larger glass vase for this one. And once I was all done, I had all of these different ornaments, and as you can tell, I did add glitter to some of them. And you want to make sure you put a top coat on this, because as I learned with the bottles that I did, I wish I would have mentioned it in the video, you really need to put a high gloss clear spray coat on top of all of these when you're done. You don't have to add the glitter. If you do, I suggest you use the Martha Stewart glitters. They just make everything that much more sparkly and fiery, and these are the ones that I used, and I'll show you these under some better light, these ornaments, so that you can see how they look. So here is how this wreath came out. Now I want to show you something because I added 2 other products over this. You can see that I turned the bow into a red color, but these are little sequins that I put along the side here, and underneath I painted something on by Viva Decor, and I'll use this other snowflake as an example. This is the denim blue Rit dye, and for some reason it didn't come out very crystallized. It's a little flat and dull. So I took this product by Viva Decor, and you should see the colors that they make with this glitter. Actually, it's called glitter paste, and these will be on my website. They have these amazing gem tone silver, gold champagne, ruby red, just the most beautiful colors. So I took a paintbrush. You want to take a very sturdy kind of paintbrush, and just apply this. If you'd like to use it, apply it all over the surface. Now, since it's a paste, it's already got its own glue built in there, and I covered a couple of the ornaments with this in different colors. Before I show you the rest of these under the really pretty lights, I just want to remind you or ask you to please subscribe. It really means that I can keep making more and more videos, which are really important to me. So thank you so much for that, guys. And here is how our items now look. That was supposed to be the Bethlehem star. It looks a little like a sea urchin, still beautiful. This is the snowflake. And on this, I just used the silver glitter paste over top of the blue glitter paste, so it's got a little bit of a 3-dimensional glittering effect on there. Those Viva Decors, their glitter pastes are just amazing. And then here is one of the wreaths where I used the glitter paste around the base of it and over the top, the ribbon there. This is one of the little trees. By the way, this wreath is just the plain borax. You can see how fiery and glittery the borax is alone usually. And I did add a little bit of glitter up at the top for the ribbon just to make that stand out. And then here's one where I didn't add any color, and there's a little bit of bling to this too. And you'll see the butterfly again where I didn't add any color. And by the way, guys, thank you so much for subscribing, for all of your lovely comments. Upcycle with Decoupage is also on Facebook. If you go over and like and follow the page, you'll be notified every week when I put a new video out. Whoops. And I will see you, my friends, next week with another video. Thanks again, guys. Bye-bye.